right, so welcome back, everybody. This is now episode 10 of the Ethos podcast, and we're doing the part 3 of our Partners in 40k series. And today we have two of the, I think, the couple themselves are the most involved, I would say, in Australia in terms of actual 40k integration in our system. I don't know, however you want to describe it when you get into it. So, of course, it's Mike and Emma Basc from good old WA. Say hello to the people.
Thanks so much for having us here, and congratulations on episode 10. It's I think they say most podcasts don't actually make their 10th episode, so really well done getting to episode 10, and it's great to be here for that milestone episode.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
I didn't know it was at number 10.
Yeah. Well, it's number 8 was the one that we did with Ben and
okay.
Earlier this week.
Don't question it, just go with it. It's fine.
Yeah, I'll go with it. I'm not following numbers. I just new podcast. All right, put it in.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, so just for anyone who maybe this is their first, or you're the special guests, and they're here just for the Mike and Emma show. The general gist or my kind of premise or thesis of this series is that we spend a whole bunch of time and effort as both players or just people getting into this hobby. You're going to be spending a shit ton of time, effort, money, etc. And you really want to have the person that you're spending your life with, hopefully, to be part of that in some way. And for me, I wrote this down, so I'm going to read it out again. It's I believe that without Sonia's indirect and direct support, I would not have been able to play at the competitive level for as long as I have been, nor achieve the things I have, such as go to WTC 3 times and play in ATC 8 times and just do lots of interstate stuff. Sorry, I'm just smacking my wife's hand here because she's playing with the magnets I was magnetizing some bottles with.
That's important, the love that you're talking about, isn't it? Right there.
That's exactly right. We've got 4 kids and she's acting like one of them right now. I was like, stop it, but we can hear it. Anyway.
She must be recording a podcast.
Well, listening to this for the 3rd time, I know by heart what he's saying.
That's right. All right, so that's the general thesis. That's like the premise that we're going with this. And as I said, like just before we started, Emma, I know probably in the very beginning you were maybe not involved in any 40k and you were supporting Mike, but as was shown with the Warhammer Heroes, you definitely are, in your own rights, you do more than the average bear will say. In 40k. So do you guys want to introduce yourself? And I know I made this joke already, but nothing's better than a bad dad joke, especially repeated. So for the 3 people on Earth who don't know who you are, please introduce yourselves.
Okay. My name's Mike. I'm one half of Objective Secured here in Perth, WA.
I'd say you're a quarter.
A quarter?
Yeah.
Look, I have been losing weight, so I'll take that. I've been playing 40k since, I'm going to put a pin somewhere around 1990. Rogue Trader was when I started playing 40k. Mm-hmm. And I've played every edition of the game. I've been fortunate enough to be part of the first team to travel as what is now the World Team Championships for Australia. I've captained WA 3 years, and I've been the committee rep for way too long for the ATC. I've won official GTs here in WA that were run by Games Workshop. I've won more than my fair share of tournaments over the years. These days, I spend more time organising events than playing in them, which is a mixed bag. I enjoy running them, but I try and go to as many as I can that we don't host. And now I've got my son who's joined us playing and building and painting, so I'm looking forward to a new lease in 10th edition for my enthusiasm and passion to join with him and keep running events. And I don't think I'd be where I am with the hobby without Emma.
And I'm Emma, and I'm the other half of Objective Secured. And
Or the 3/4.
The other 3/4, that's exactly right. Yes, I like that you picked that up. So I've actually never played a game of 40k.
I refuse.
Yeah, so when...
It's Blood Bowl's fault.
Yeah, when Mike and I got together, so as much as you're saying that, you know, when you find a partner for life, it would be good to have them involved in your hobby. When Mike and I got together, he very much didn't want me anywhere near his hobby, and I was okay with that. We did play a game of Blood Bowl, half a game of Blood Bowl, and I wiped the floor with him so he wouldn't play with me. He took his toy soldiers and packed them away and sulked for a little while.
Not the first half. I was playing the Orcs. How the hell does that happen?
So that was...
The look on my wife's face, I think you and her would just ching glasses and go, yes, that's right.
That was, I think, 23 years ago.
Well, I was still living at home, so that goes back a long time.
Yeah, it was a long time. And then, so yeah, he didn't want me anywhere near his hobby, and then sort of things evolved and we started Objective Secured, and then somehow I'm now in it up to my eyeballs and do a lot behind the scene, well, I suppose on the days as well, organising events and doing kind of all the stuff that goes into Objective Secured.
I like to say she's learnt 40k through osmosis, because when we first started running tournaments, this was in 7th edition, I think it was.
It was.
And she walked past a table which with a now former GW staff member, and he jokingly said, "Hey Emma, what's the ballistic skill of my Guardian?" And she turned around deadpan and just said 7 and kept walking. And he's paused, looked at me and gone, "What? Did I miss something?" And I've gone, "No, she's messing with you, dude. It's fine. You know the rules." And he's gone, "Oh yeah." For that moment, watching his face, puzzled bewilderment was priceless. But these days you do actually get rules queries.
I do get rules queries, yeah. And I mean, as much as I don't play, we did teach the 9th edition, you know, when 9th edition came out, we did run a deep dive into it. And we did that together.
Yes. So that was weeks of study when we got our pre-release copy, and then like a 7-hour live stream and session with people in the room, and we went through all the changes, and we didn't get everything right because it's way too easy to miss things. And yeah, we've made it our goal over the last... Well, we started OBSEC in 2015. And in that time, we've tried to build the Perth community and sort of revitalise the love for the hobby in that time. And I think we've achieved that over the years.
I think that's the thing. Mike's all about the game and I'm all about community. And together we kind of put those two loves together, and that's how we ended up with it is our OBSEC family.
It's very, very nice, very poignant. Did you know anything about 40k before, or like this type of hobby before you got together?
No. The closest I came to it was Subutio, which you may know what that is, but most people listening probably won't. But that is literally the closest that I'd come to anything like this at all.
No, I don't know what that is.
What is that? What is it?
Crap board game.
It's actually nothing like it at all, but basically it's so in football, so soccer, where you've got little men on the table and you've got a soccer ball and you have to flick your little men.
I know that one.
Simon, you know Test Match, right? The Milton and Bradley board game with the little... Yeah, like that.
We play that. We've been playing that. We have other names for those.
So anyway, that's the closest that I'd ever come. And and then he took me... Oh, you won't know what Games Workshop in Perth was like back then, but he took me into that shop which just had BO kind of inbred in the carpet and walls. It was disgusting.
This was a Games Workshop in the late 90s, and it was what you would read online today. Anywhere you go, it was a bit dingy, the carpet was a bit dirty, everyone stank. Yeah. Like everyone had acne. Like it was that sort of... It's a far cry from the modern Warhammer stores, which are bright and air-conditioned. Because in Perth, I don't even think it was air-conditioned when they opened it.
No,
it was pretty bad. And the funniest thing was they put it beside a bridal store on the second floor of this very upmarket boutique sort of open-air mall space. And so when they did the store opening, there's all these women sticking their head out of this bridal thing on a Sunday morning as they've got 50 or 60 kids yelling "wah" at the top of their lungs, and it was a very interesting choice for their first Warhammer store in Perth.
It would be fun. So there'd be all the boys would be inside, and all the girlfriends would be standing outside.
Well, they did put that table and chairs outside.
I
It was like an
appreciate it.
octagonal table that was out on the balcony for the women to sit and wait at. So
With some fresh air. It was
Well, at
gross.
least they consider the girls. At least they thought, oh well,
the thing that
girlfriends are
manager ever
coming.
did.
It was the manager's girlfriend. But yeah,
That's good. That's why.
very much. It
Shout out to Laurie and Jason for the era.
was Ivy who got the
Yeah.
table put outside, but yeah.
Look, the first Games Workshop I went to, it was 1997, and it wasn't that bad because it was in Garden City, so it was in an air-conditioned shopping centre.
Oh, nice. Yeah, definitely much more upmarket.
That's right, because I used to work in Garden City, like at Coles, and I got into 40k when I was, I think, 16. Yeah, it was like year 9, year 10, something like that. And yeah, I during my lunch breaks, I would walk up there and just look at it, and it's like, I could work for 3 hours and buy one model. Oh yeah, that seems like good financial management.
Well, I think you've got to work for 16-year-olds these days have to work for a bit more than 3 hours to be able to afford one model, but yeah.
Yeah,
Look, I
think
work
the
the hobby school
inflation's-
these days, and there are days I come back as not necessarily cash positive for the hours work compared to what comes home. So
Yeah. I mean, because what was I paid? I think it was like $7 an hour. Oh no, that was when I was 14. So when I was 16, I was probably about $8 an hour. So yeah, I think the inflation's definitely gone up a little bit, but yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
Sonia's doing some maths on the calculator.
Not even half a model. Not even half a model today.
I love it. So did you know, like, how did you find out then? Like, the introduction was he brought you to a Games Workshop, was it?
Probably. I mean, he did D from me for quite some time, and
yeah, D&D was the weirder of the two hobbies, I'll admit.
I think, he had models like on his desk that he was painting and stuff like that, so I would have seen them, and then
Oh, so it wasn't hiding anything or anything like that.
no, it wasn't. So outside of my OPSEC life, I also work as a marriage celebrant, and I've been the celebrant for a few different Games Workshop players' weddings, and it's funny the number of the guys who do hide their game. I've got it in this room, and I just kept the door of that room shut till we'd been together for 2 years, or that type of thing. So it wasn't like that. It was just, this is my I think he was quite righteous about it. This is my hobby, and I'm not going to be teased about it. So which was fine. I've got so many other things I can tease you about. You can have the hobby.
Yeah, she made the mistake of saying that, and now it's all through our garage. We had to build an extension. It's all sat around me where I'm recording right now.
It's supposed to be my desk.
It's my desk at the moment.
Look, I did say I have models I'm making right now and magnetizing it, so I would be lying if I didn't have at least 15 or so models.
Well, I cannot talk too much.
Within half of a
I cannot say nothing.
Yeah,
No, I have half of the bench on the kitchen with paints and models that I'm painting.
No, mine's all confined to a small space, but there is the better part of a company of Dark Angels sat here beside me in pieces.
Sonia, I don't think we're going to get along if you're there making excuses for him taking up space. Okay, we don't talk about.
No, she's the painter.
I'm the painter. So he builds. No, the thing is, he builds. He said, "Here, can you paint this for me?" So when you need a form, there is no rush for them. Okay, I will take my time. I'll take my time.
I did that today, but with our son.
I think that's him that's taking up that room as well. You know, he's giving it to you to paint. Therefore,
Well, it's the kitchen. It has to be cleaned up every single time that I finish painting. It's cleaned up because the kitchen is the desk for the kids as well for the homeworks, breakfast, dinner, lunch.
Yeah, that's
So-
it. We haven't been able to use our dining table for I don't know how long because our son is building a Titan and the Titan's been all over the dining table. I was like, okay, we'll eat somewhere else, shall we? It's getting a bit cold to sit outside.
Excellent. What was your initial reactions? Like, if you played any D&D beforehand, then this would just be as like, oh, okay, it's like
no,
D&D with slightly less
I'd
rules.
never played D&D.
No?
Yeah, no, definitely not. I came from a very different household.
Despite being English, you'd never heard of Games Workshop.
Yeah, no. My family, this was not the kind of thing that my family was into or my friendship group was into at all. So, no, just...
You
I
were
was
more of
young.
a Ram Raider, yeah?
I think when I'm quite open-minded. So I think, yeah, it was just, oh yeah, whatever. So he was older, you know, exciting.
I am 3 years older.
Yeah.
Not so exciting anymore, right?
No, it's not. Things really changed.
17, 18 years old, it was exciting.
You know, I'd put up with him having geeky hobbies because he was older and exciting and had a car. So, you know, you can overlook these things when they've got a car.
Funnily enough, I've got multiple cars. I'm not allowed to spend money on them anymore.
Again, things change.
To be fair, that makes Warhammer my cheap hobby when you actually put it in context.
Yeah, I have said that to Sonia. Like, there are way more expensive hobbies than 40k. I mean, 40k is an expensive hobby, but and my approach, and I've said this in a number of different episodes, but also with a whole bunch of my friends, I have approached 40k with a mindset of collection. I restrict myself to certain factions, in essence. I build the collection over the last up-teen amounts of decades. And then, like, right now, I'm at a point, yes, 10th edition is about to drop, and there are a couple of new models in the Tyranid range, but, like, I've got 3 of everything, sometimes 4 of things. Like, I've got 2 Liliths, I don't know why. You know, you've got...
my Eldar range. Like,
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
the same thing. My Eldar army is
Well,
extensive.
I was gonna say you limit yourself to everything that's in 40k.
No, I don't.
But with the idea that there are more expensive hobbies. So our son, he has always been a Lego fan.
Still is.
And he still is, yeah. But I was out buying some Lego for a birthday or Christmas or whatever it was, and I just looked at it and I was like, I cannot believe I'm going to spend $250 on this box, and he is going to build it in less than an hour. Now, he's not the kind of person that he'll build it and pull it apart and build it and pull it apart. He builds it and it sits on a shelf. So $250 for an hour's worth of entertainment. Like, it's still going to bring him joy because he puts it on his shelf and whatever. But that is not an economical hobby. And that's when I started going,
I know that.
yeah, actually, let me think about this. Warhammer is a lot more affordable than something like Lego. So I actually wrote a blog post that kind of, compared the two and how many hours of entertainment you get out of a similar amount of money that you would spend on Warhammer models by the time you build them and, perhaps sculpt something or convert, paint, and then getting the chance to put it on the table. There is the ability to get so many more hours worth of entertainment from that, as opposed to an hour of building and sticking it on a shelf. So that, as a parent, that really helped me justify, because he's 16. So similar to what you were saying, Simon, with his first, and he's in a position where his first job is as commissioned painter. So, is in this kind of world, but he's not earning the same kind of money that an adult is. But this is an expensive hobby. So can I justify trying to encourage him into this hobby, or do I need to try and encourage him into something that's not going to send him broke and he's still going to be able to afford to go out with his friends and that kind of thing? But when I looked at it, I was like, actually, it's a lot more affordable than you think. You don't have to go out. Like, yes, he saved up and he's just spent, was it $800 on the Titan?
It was closer to 1,000.
Okay, so he saved up and he's just spent $1,000 on a Titan. But how many hours has he spent on it so far?
Well, just the two of us sat there working out the build and the process. I reckon it took 12 plus hours just to get it standing, not including all the details. The other advantage he has had getting into Warhammer is me.
Yeah, I mean, he
Because
goes, "Oh, I'd quite like something," and then Mark goes, "Oh, I've got one of those out in the dungeon," and then comes in with 3 of them. By the way, I need to say our dungeon is just a really big room
the
in our
extension
back
room.
garden. We don't actually have a dungeon.
Yeah, it's nicknamed the dungeon.
What?
Because
Don't explain it. Just leave it mysterious. What are you talking
edit
about?
that bit out. It's fine.
That's right. You have a dungeon. There is a guard at the dungeon. No one else gets to go in unless there's it's like the Mr. Burns face, implant type thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can get behind that piece of security. No, he said it today. He was trying to figure out how to do the plasma glow on the Warhound's plasma blast gun, and he said, "There's just nothing the same size, Dad." And I went, "I think I have something out in the dungeon." And we've wandered out there, and I don't know if you might remember this, Simon. There was a piece of terrain, the plasma obliterate.
Got it downstairs.
Yep.
Yep.
When I bought mine, the bottom half of it was miscast, and you couldn't build the tower. But I built the top, and they let me keep the top, took the tower away, and then didn't replace it and just gave me a refund. So I've still got the tower. I've still got this plasma blast gun with the top sort of eagle section built. It's been sat there. I mean, that model must have come out 15 plus years ago. Went out there today. There it is. Hey, Lachlan, here's a giant plasma blast gun for you to practice the glow effect on. Paint it for the scenery for our terrain and tournaments, please. Okay, Dad. And off he's trotted. So he's gone to fix and repair it, and then he's going to paint that. And a lot of when he started was that, where he'd go, "I really want some Space Marines, Dad," and I've gone, "All right,
Here's a bag full."
here's a bunch of like snap fit ones from 8th edition's release. Go for it." And before you know it, he had 100 Space Marines because he just went out there and went, "Oh, what's this? Oh, it's a half a land speeder. Oh, there's another half a land speeder here. Can I have these? Yeah, sure, go for it."
Yep.
And to be fair, it's actually been really good for me because it's cleared a bunch of stuff that I have been collecting over the years that was never going to see the light of day by my hands, and now it is.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know. We'll get back to the some of the questions I've got, but just on this topic, that's exactly the journey I think I took for the kids, but also for Sonia, really pushing to get her more involved. Not pushing in the ways like you have to be involved more, but it's like, all right, I've been asking for about like 5 or 6 years. I would love to see you, starting to paint because I know you're an artistic person. Here's the GW catalog in essence. Pick something, and the kids, they pick some cool shark dudes and all this type of stuff, and then the little goblins, and then Sonia goes, "Oh, this big moon thing from the goblin range, that looks pretty cool. I'll have that." So we get it. Here you go for it. She painted it as the first piece thing, and it's like, "Oh yeah, that was pretty fun. Oh, I'll paint these now." And then it's just moving it from something that she really wanted to do, just to try, to now to a point where I can go, all right, here is a bunch of harlequins. I don't care what color they are. She then asked the kids to say, all right, for this one harlequin, like say there's 15 harlequins, it's like, all right, this harlequin, what should it be? And then the kids are voting on, what paint scheme it gets done. So it's just really like involving them in parts that I don't like. They're low pressure, but it shows that you're kind of part of this, and so you can get through osmosis or through whatever the joy that in essence I get through this hobby.
It's funny actually because Emma has painted models. I have those forest goblins out in the dungeon. And they've never seen the light of day because you've never let me take photos of them. I really wish you would.
No.
I might do that anyway, just not tell her. And like I said, Lachlan's kind of jumped headlong into it, and he's enjoying the building and painting. And he paints way more than he plays, although that's starting to adjust now. He's got some mates who play. The 2 girls are actually both involved for events as well for us, except so Ava, our youngest, has her own little paint collection, which I gave her from a bunch of old paints and stuff, and she has the Stormcast and the Bloodborne from the original Age of Sigmar starter that she's painted herself, and she's got some Space Marines and bits as well she's done. I even gave her a sorceress, a Dark Elf sorceress that I converted into a succubus for my Drakari that she painted. Our oldest has never shown any interest, but she has just gone and done her RSA so she can start serving alcohol at events. So she's 18 now, but she's been helping in the kitchen and all sorts for events for a little while now, and she's just completed her.
I mean, saying that, so I don't
Let
know.
her friends play, ironically.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you know how insane I am around Christmas, but Christmas is my season, and so we do a different Christmas activity as a family every day for December, and so for the last couple of years we've been building up for an offset Christmas tree. So we've got a whole heap of different like Space Marines, and then painted them up as Christmas elves, and
So imagine a gingerbread Space Marine with a candy cane rocket launcher.
yeah,
I love it.
that kind of thing. So the kids get involved with that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, and look, I
painted the angel to go on top of the tree, and
that was the Sisters of Battle angel model from the Reliquary Battle, the terrain piece.
Yeah. The sharks one that I was talking about, I got them to design. Like we did it over a 3-month period where I say, okay, here's the sharks. So the Indokin it's like the big Indokin shark thing. So I got 4 of those guys. I said, here are what the sharks are, and then instead of just building the model, it's like, all right, let's draw it, and you guys get to design it however you want, and then we actually went through and converted all of them to be something special for all of them, and some of them we got like eBay pieces for like coral, like bits of coral and things like that, just because I wanted them to be involved in like all that. And I had a bunch of GSE trucks that they all painted like one each, just random colors, and I don't really use them, but they're there and I have them.
yeah,
And they like to show them. They like to show
Yeah.
them. I paint this. Anyone to
Yeah,
comes.
I think we had a Space Marine in our cutlery drawer for like 3 years.
Space Wolf that one of them painted, in rainbow colours.
Yeah.
Actually, when I went to ETC with Diffie and the boys back in 2012, Simon, you'll remember in 5th edition you had to have the craters for your vehicles when they were destroyed. And I took Dark Elder at the time, now Drakari, with me for that trip, and I had a bunch of laser cut green perspex craters essentially cut out that I could put on the table that were the same size and shape as my Raiders and Venoms. The list changed at the 11th hour before we flew, and I needed 2 more of those templates because I didn't have enough if every vehicle was destroyed. And you know how strict that event can be in regards to everything you need. So my son, how old would he have been? 6?
No, he would
Not
have been
even
5 at the
5.
time, yeah.
I traced out the shape of the Venom onto some thick card and then said to him, decorate these. And they came back bright green, and they had 3-dimensional flames. He'd actually gotten paper, drawn flames, cut them out, and then stuck them on with sticky tape, and then drawn like the wrecked, crashed vehicle with bodies hanging out of it and all this other sort of stuff at 5. And they went with me to ETC in Poland, and I actually found them a couple of weeks ago, and he went, I remember doing that. And I said, well, yep, they're still here. I don't use them anymore because the game's moved on, but I've still got them.
Yeah, I know the terrain that the kids made. So I made
the round things.
Some forests and like the ETC vents, and I just got some heavy card, cut it, and said, "Here you go, guys. Just color these in. These are forests. These are vents." And they colored it like a bunch of different forests where they would draw like trees and say like grandma tree, baby tree, and then the baby tree saying I'm a tree, and then all the vents were just like horror stuff. Like there'd be like it behind some bars, and then like nuclear rats running through and all that type of stuff. People who have seen these, like, because I've had big practice days at my house, or I've taken the box of terrain to other people's houses. They love them. That there were so many people in Brisbane who have seen those, and they think it's hilarious. This is like we're kind of jumping ahead, but this is the type of stuff I find, and it's really good to talk to someone with kids who've kind of they're taking part with it, because this is the stuff I've found that they're kind of like not so much tactics, they're like things that you can do if you're paying attention, that you can you can involve people who might not be 100% on board or interested in all the crap that you're doing, but you can get them on board and interested on one, like an aspect of it, so they have good memories in essence of the thing.
I think it's about, like, I talked about the fact that I really appreciate community, but I think with children, and also with the community that we try and build, and I often get questions around how can I get my partner involved in this. It's about creating connections, and that doesn't have to be, like, for me, the game itself is completely overwhelming. I love playing board games, but
We do play a lot of board
we do play a lot
games.
of board games. An hour and a half tops is about my limit. I don't want to go over that. Like, and 40K is, I have quite a complicated job, and 40K is too complicated. I just don't have the mental space to be able to hold all of the different rules and all of the different processes and, you know, all of the different strategy. It's not going to bring me joy. But it doesn't have to. What it's about is actually creating connection with other people. So finding elements of ways that you can connect with people over something that brings you joy. So, you know, some people find mindful colouring really great. For me, I think that's boring as, I was going to swear, but I don't know what the swearing rules are, so I won't. I think that's boring. But sitting while Mike is building something and painting terrain, we're sitting there, we're chatting together. It gives us something to talk about that, you know, we can share. At the end of it, I get to go, oh, look, I've got something that's actually useful while still getting to practice the mindfulness and still looking after self-care and all of those kinds of things that go with it. But we have connection. When we're sitting with our kids, so our dining table is made of glass, thank goodness, so we can get rid of all of the paint and whatever that goes all over it.
Worked really well on it.
But, you know, when we're sitting at the table with a whole heap of Space Marines that have been painted up as Christmas elves, we're getting to laugh and joke, and we're getting to talk to each other about ways that, oh, what if you did this? Or have you thought about, oh, that looks really cool. I never would have thought of doing that. Hey, what do you think to this? Or, oh, I don't like it. I broke it. No, you haven't. What if you just add this? So it's all of those ways that, and we're attached to screens all the time, and we've got, you know, quite often we've got 4 laptops open and 3 iPads, and we've all got phones as well. So we're not saying that, you know, we're never attached to screens, but it gives us a chance to have connection where there isn't a screen involved. It gives us chance. So our children, our eldest is 18, our youngest is 10, and then Lachlan is 16, in the middle. They still choose to spend time with us. And I think it's because we've done stuff like this with them, and we use this as when you're looking at a model that you're painting, you get to have awkward conversations because you're not making eye contact. So all of those things become like part of our parenting techniques as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's one of the reasons that that we have it as part of our household.
And you kind of continue it on with it and see it as like a positive force as well.
Yeah. And look, I've written blog posts about all this kind of stuff, but, you know, the games, the events that we run, our children are always there. So I feel like this is a safe space in the community, and I feel like our children can be there. And our children have grown up at these events.
Yeah.
But it's not just our children that have grown up at these events. So, you know, we often hear wives talking about making fun of the games, and I am right there with them making fun of the games, and grown men playing with toy soldiers and all of that kind of stuff. But when it comes to it, it's not just grown men playing with toy soldiers. So we ran an event on the weekend, which was Charity Hammer, and we were raising money for men's mental health and dad's mental health in a perinatal and parenting organisation that's over here in Western Australia. And I would say 90% of the people who came to that came up and said, I'm here because it's raising awareness for mental health. And the very first event that we ran, which was, you know, we'd had no kind of community around 40K for quite some time, and events had been small, and then we ran an event with 64 attendees.
It was 50. The very first one we hit was 50 in
Was it? I thought it
November.
was more.
November. I went and had a look at this. It was November of 2015, and prior to that, the biggest event in Perth was 50 at the 2004 GT that I won. and then in the middle, like if somewhere between 04 and 2015, they were kind of in the 20s and 30s consistently. And we hit 50 for our first event, which was massively hyped, and we had a bunch of support from the Warhammer staff or Games Workshop staff and other sort of independent supporters of us who, you know, the clubs and that sort of stuff. But it was interesting.
So we had 50 people who came, and at the end of it, one of the guys came up to me and said, I just want you to know I'm alive because of this event. So he had contemplated taking his own life, and he was alive because he felt like there was a space for him, and this was somewhere that he fit. And he's not a one-off. So this playing Warhammer, creating spaces like this, gives people space where they feel like they belong. And
it's a different variation of like the men's shed type concept.
Yeah, that's it. And we see teen boys who perhaps don't have male role models in their life coming along,
or they have poor
male role models, and the men across the table will go, oh, we shake hands before we start, and at the end of it we shake hands and we say good game. Or someone will, I'm quite often the only woman in the room apart from my mum and our 2 daughters, and someone will speak inappropriately to me. Now, I'm not opposed to saying, dude, that's not on, but I don't have to, because somebody else in the room will go, we don't speak to women like that. You need to apologise, and this is how you need to speak. So they're modelling good behaviours as well, and it's a place where for people who are socially awkward, they're not having to make eye contact and have a conversation. You can be there because you're moving toy soldiers around on a table. So it's really powerful, and I do, as much as I don't play, I really do believe in what it can do and the power that comes from the good that comes from that. So if you're a wife that's making fun of grown men playing with toy soldiers, keep doing that, but know underneath there's some good stuff too. You don't have to acknowledge it out loud, but just be aware that it's there.
I don't know, I think acknowledge it out loud, because at least that way he's not going to be upset.
All right, that was a really, for me personally, I liked that kind of sojourn. I think that's the word. The kind of ambling thing. Let's try.
No, that happens a lot with us when we record.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to.
No, don't apologise.
A special surprise.
This is pretty much how my conversations. Like Sonia's nodding her head, because this is how my conversations go.
Yeah. So one topic and then
they're 3 hours.
Bushes. All right, so I want to ask the same type of questions I asked Emma, Mike, which was like from your point of view. Or maybe you remember it exactly as Emma said, but did you like hide or play down the fact that you played 40k initially when you first met?
Probably a little.
So long ago.
It was a long time ago.
We've been together literally forever. I'm not sure that either of us can probably remember back that long. I'm 44 now, and we started dating when I was 20. Yeah. So yeah, it's been a long time. And I often think back and go, particularly in the last decade, a lot of the community, and particularly with the Marvel movies and everything that went on through the late 2000s and early 2010s, made a lot of that geek culture a lot more It's a lot more acceptable now. Yeah.
And I certainly remember certainly through my high school years in the late 90s, it was still something that, you nerd, you're playing with toys, that's ridiculous, and all that sort of stuff that went on with some of my mates. So I have no doubt I was very cautious in the early days to try and not have that stuff happen, because I'd seen it happen before. But at the same time, I'd gone through, like my mates and we'd gone through this process, particularly late high school and sort of between 1995 and 2000, was one of us would have a girlfriend or something and they'd disappear. And you'd not see them at a D&D game or a 40k game or anything, and then all of a sudden they're back every week, and you're going, what happened there? Doesn't matter. Okay, cool. No worries. And we never really talked about that. It was just what happened periodically to some of us. So it was more interesting, though, when there were sort of 3 or 4 of us that had girlfriends, and it was like, okay, cool, we're all going to go out and do this activity. There's like 8 or 10 of us, and half of it is girls.
Yeah, they made me go and watch Star Wars in the front row
This
at
is
midnight.
before you.
I was there for 99.
Well, you were
and
for
2000,
99.
But still, just saying,
But there were
Star
also
Wars front row.
But there were also days when we'd go, we're all getting together, you guys go and do something else. And they'd all go and do something else. We don't know. We're going to play. We're going to game. So, yeah, look, I certainly remember it being a more cautious entrance back then. But I think, like, watching even just our son with his mates and female friends, he said to them, one of them, I'm going to Warhammer World, a Warhammer store.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She went, what's Warhammer? And he explained it, and she went, oh, can I come? And they've wandered down there from TAFE, because he's at TAFE, and she's sat down, having never experienced the hobby whatsoever, and built herself a Space Marine and painted it in store with him while he was building and painting. And the fact that it was that simple shows how far we have come, not just as a society, but as a group within that society, where it's much more open and accepted by parts of the population. Not every part.
I know that this is your podcast, Simon, but I'm going to jump in and just ask, do you think, though, that that's because of the way that, like, our family openness to this? Like, it wouldn't occur to him to be ashamed of this game.
That could very well be,
He
yes.
hasn't experienced that, whereas I still see some of the people who come to our events still experience shame for playing the game, and they're shamed by their family and they're shamed by their friends for wanting to play. So there's still elements in there. I just wonder if we see it less because we try and live in an echo chamber where we don't encourage people into our lives who are likely to shame us for nerd and geekery.
Do you think it's exposure? That limiting of the shame? Like, I know when I was growing up, so same thing. Like my dad still thinks it's just like
well.
playing with toy soldiers and all that type of stuff. And it doesn't matter. Like, I could say, like, I won the world championships, or I won or came second in an event and got $500, and he's like, okay, cool. Like, back then it was like I had to kind of push through that and just ignore it. And it's like, because I was a big boy when I was growing up, and so I got used to being teased and bullied and all that type of stuff. And so anyone who was insulting me or my hobbies or any of that, I just went, I had to learn how to get past that. And it didn't matter if it was my parents or if it was, friends or whoever. It's just like, your opinion, it's not that it doesn't matter, it's I will accept it and ignore it.
Yeah. I still think that's an element that's
there's definitely parts of it out there in the community. There's no question.
Yeah.
It's interesting. One of the guys who comes to our events regularly, he begs me to put events on a Sunday rather than a Saturday. And a lot of our guys do because they're uni students and they often work Saturday, but they want it Sunday. His reason is that they put his footy and cricket games in the summer and winter on Saturdays and not Sundays. Mm-hmm. And when we have a 2-day event, he has to choose between sport and 40K. Mm-hmm. And he's never missed an event when he's had to make that choice. And they give him grief for it because he's going and playing with his toy soldiers. He wins more events than he doesn't. So it definitely still happens. But we're seeing, I feel like we still get less issue of it. Certainly for our son's generation, it'll be less of an issue than I ever experienced, that's for sure.
Mm.
But I think this generation is more influenced by parents rather than for own interest to go in there. Because I've seen in the GW shop that parents come with their 8-9-year-old kids to the shop and start to teach them how to what they want to build and how they want to build it, and painting and all this stuff. I've seen them in the GW shops, and we have a few friends that start to do that with their own kids, so that can pass down the legacy of 40K into their kids. No pressure, but just here, start with this. Let's see.
Yeah, we see that as well, and we certainly see, often it's dads who want to share that with their children. But then we still get I would get a fair few mums coming up to me going, oh God, he wants to play this game and I have absolutely no idea what like, what do I buy him? If I want to buy him something for Christmas, or how do I learn? How do I, how do I share this with them? So, but I think, it's nice that parents who aren't legacy parents are trying to learn it as well, so that they can find out what their kids' hobbies are. And I'm not sure your parents would have done that.
No.
They would have tried
not mine.
learn. Yeah.
They were actively discouraging it.
Find something to give you money. That's what will do this.
That's right. Is what you're doing earning money? No, stop doing it.
I see the parent thing happen a lot. I like I said earlier, I work at a hobby store here in Perth, and I have the staff have gotten to the point now when mums come in looking for stuff, they say, "Can you come back on this day when Mike's going to be here?" And I go in on a Friday every week, and I have this steady stream of customers all through there who come to speak to me, and a lot of the time it is parents, and they come in and go, "Okay, I've got a picture of it. I want to kill something or other." And I've gone, "Oh, it's a kill rig." Mm-hmm. And they've gone, "I don't know, it looks like a big rhino thing with a horse-drawn cart."
Yeah.
And I go, "Yep, that's kill rig. I've got that, not a problem." Okay, cool. And then he wants a Drake. And I went, "Well, there's a few of those. Does it play with the men with guns or the men with swords and shields?" Guns. Okay, that's a Hell Drake. And you see parents who come in and do that sort of thing, and then others...
Just so you know, I don't know if my son plays with men with shields or swords or guns. I've no idea.
Guns.
Okay, right.
40K is guns. But then I have other parents who come in where the kid has gone, "I don't trust you. Here's a printout of exactly what it is." They write the barcode down. Nice. And they come in and go, "Here you go." And you go, "Okay, cool. That I can deal with as well. We're fine."
That works. My mum still says, "For Michael's birthday, can I give you money and can you get something?" I'm like, "Yes. How much money are you giving me?" And she tells me, and then I'll say to Michael, "Please, can you go and buy yourself something for this amount?"
It's been great over the years. I've gotten like limited edition models and all sorts of stuff. Mother-in-law's great for that.
Yeah. I just realised, Emma, that we're the same age, just based on what Mike was saying, that he's 43 now. Was it 43 or 44?
44.
No, he's 44.
44, yeah. No, so we're the same age because I'm 41 this year.
Yeah.
Emma's already 41.
I am. That's right.
Oh, you're slightly older than me.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So, how do you think you got Emma involved? Like, going back into the beginning, because like this is a little bit of this podcast is about. Well, this topic, me exploring this topic, was about getting people or getting partners involved. So, like the kind of the beginning of it. Then, when you're in the midst of it, like how do you get them? Say more involved or more I'm saying integrated, but it's not like they're becoming a cult or a cultist or anything like that. But you know what I'm trying to say. Just the different strategies to get them more interested in your happiness. We'll say like that from that point of view, because everyone's hobby brings them joy. And
in theory, it should, yeah.
Well, hopefully, yeah.
I'm building Space Marine Outriders at the moment. They do not bring me joy. I hate the damn things.
But
there's a reason.
Yeah, I heard horror stories from what are they called? The new dwarf guys. What are they called? And this is in 40k world.
Oh, the Votan.
Votan, yeah, the Votan bikes apparently are like 66 pieces and very.
Yeah, I built 3, and then when I never want to build anymore.
Yeah. Oh, and the was it Necron Ghost Arcs? I've heard many horror stories about that. Anyway, we've got the getting them aware. Like it's almost like just a general marketing type thing. It's like awareness and then active use and then actual not salesperson, but like I'll say like an acolyte of the hobby itself. And so Emma, you're in essence a acolyte of the hobby. And I'm not saying everyone has to go towards that point of view, but
I think I might have taken it to the extreme.
Matriarch.
Yeah. So you've we're doing different. I want to make sure I cover kind of at least the first 2 of the 3 with people who are maybe at the 3rd level already. And we spent a whole bunch of time already talking about the middle one, like, you know, different strategies of, like, once they know about it, how can you get them a bit more involved, or, you know, just even small choices, but right in the beginning.
I'm gonna lay this at Emma's feet. This is your fault.
Yeah, but do you know what? I think I skipped the beginning stage.
Well, the weird part at the beginning for us was, like, the Blood Bowl game was a tipping point, because you went, come on, it's a board game, and it's not the current version of Blood Bowl, obviously, it's the older version, because it's a long time ago.
It's like version 1.
Well, it wasn't version 1, it was about version 3. In any case, me losing that first half was not conducive to the continued playing of those games. But the reason that you're as involved as you are now is your own stupid fault.
Yeah, it is.
Because we were 2014, late 2014 it must have been, and there were probably 6 of us or 7 of us around at our house. And it was basically a moaning fest of the group of us kind of going, oh, there's only the same 20 guys who go to every tournament. Like, it's kind of getting stale. At that point, we'd gone
40K's dead, I believe, was the chant of the
at that point as well. So there was an event series in Perth through the late 2000s called the West Gamer Ultimates series, which was run by an ex-GW staff member who put a lot of time and effort into it, and I helped launch the tournament. And it was an invitation-only event, and
that was Luke Retallick.
Yep. Yeah. And you had to qualify to get into it, and then Luke had basically, his life had changed, and he'd moved on, and he basically pulled the pin and cancelled the event. And it was only recently, well, I say recently, probably in the last, actually no, it wasn't that recent, it was over 5 years ago now. He finally closed West Gamer, which was a forum that he'd set up and run through all the 2000s for West Australian hobbyists. And without Ultimates running in I think it was 2014, the event pool had dried up because there was no incentive to go to events, because you couldn't qualify for this event anymore because it didn't exist anymore. And we were all kind of sat there going, oh, you know, this is crap. Like, what do we do? And then Emma chimes in and goes, why don't you put your money where your mouths are?
Well, it was around
Stop your whining.
40K's dead, 40K's dead, 40K's dead. Nobody's playing 40K anymore. I'm like, I don't play 40K. I don't go to events, because he won an event when I didn't go, and therefore we figured it was good luck for me not to go. Yep. So
she's never been to an event.
Never went to an event that he's played. But if I know from the people who come to our house, a whole heap of people who are playing events, there's got to be a whole heap of people out there that I don't know. Mm-hmm. So put your money where your mouth is. If you want events, run some. So, and then there was a whole heap of reasons why that wasn't going to work. And then I just went, well, here's the reasons why it will. So, you know, for every objection, there's a way to overcome that barrier. So I never went for I didn't start with the gentle introduction to the hobby and getting kind of lightly involved. I went from not involved at all to that first event that we ran. Pretty much I rocked up on the day. We had a very small child at the time and 2 slightly older children. I came to help with lunches and the bar, and noticed a whole heap of things that Mike it hadn't occurred to him. So, for example, I helped set up as well. So none of the tables had table numbers.
Me and a buddy of mine, Jordan, set up the night before.
Yeah, but I was there in the morning. So, you know, none of the tables had table numbers. Well, how are people going to know which table to go to? I didn't think of that. So it was those kinds of things.
The basic one is that left-hand corner is table 1, and it goes up and down.
See?
No. I'm saying I've been to enough tournaments that don't have table numbers.
Thank you.
That's how they do it.
We ran an event on the weekend, and I
love you.
I couldn't find the. So we now have a lot standard table numbers. I couldn't find table number 8, like as in I couldn't find the number 8, because people steal our table numbers.
Yeah, we've had a lot of table numbers stolen.
So we've lost all of our number 8s, and we've got, I think, 6 number 8s because of the Southern Hemisphere Open that we ran for a few years pre-COVID. So no table number 8. Now, if all of the tables are numbered and one isn't, that's between, let's say, 7 and 9, what do you think that one that doesn't have a number might be? And how many times do you think people came and asked me? So,
As I said, they still children inside them. So you have to treat them like a mommy asking questions.
That's 100%. Yeah. So,
But even that first event, though, and maybe it was more than 50 because I'm just counting the tables in my head how I allowed it. Maybe it was 64.
Sure it was in the 64s, and we ended up with 62 finishing after.
Yeah, maybe it was. It was the biggest event at the time.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting one because I spent 2 days before running around picking terrain up from all the different clubs and
friends, like
borrowing from people here, there, and everywhere. So we had enough boards and vaguely enough terrain, which in hindsight we probably didn't, but we made it work. And we finished that event. It was like, that was awesome. And the first question we got, I think it was 12 hours later, was when's the next one? And we went, oh, shit, well, I don't know. My birthday was that weekend as well.
Yeah.
Like it was the Sunday was actually my birthday. And it was like, hadn't really thought past
this one,
the first one.
Yeah.
And we kicked off 2016 with First Blood, which was meant to be an easy day, which turned out to be a lot harder than we thought because, it's a one-day tournament. It'll be fine. Nope. We had 80 players for that event and setting up 40 tables of terrain and, again, borrowing and begging and pleading with people to borrow and steal and make sure we had enough terrain for everything. That was a massive job, and there was no downtime because there were 2-hour rounds or 90-minute rounds back then, 5 games.
Yeah.
And it was at that moment between all of Emma's things she picked up in the last event of 2015, the first one we ran, it became very clear that I couldn't do it solo. Not for how it took off. But I mean, for WATC these days, if we haven't had an event under 120 players in 5 years.
So it's whether or not this year will be 120 or 132 for WATC.
Yeah. And it's just not ignoring the logistics around it. Like, we've roped our kids into doing it. Emma does a bunch of it, and like I say, she's learnt a lot of 40k just by being asked the same questions. And like, I remember being in the car with her going down to an event we do in Albany, which is about 4 hours south of Perth, we do this event called Linebreaker. It's Warhammer camp. And Emma said to me, right, I want to learn 40k. So I've given her the rule book. We've got a 4-hour drive. And she starts reading it. She goes, what's this referencing? I've gone, you have to turn to page this because it's mentioned further on. Why isn't it mentioned now? This is ridiculous. It's asked about. Well, no, because I know that's what it references. But I can't know that because how am I meant to know that as a new person? I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's the way it is. Well, that's stupid. And
I stand by that.
And I agree with you. I'm with you, Emma. That's stupid. It doesn't make logic, doesn't make any sense. And you just, how?
That's it. Tell me the information that I need to know as I need to know it. Don't tell me something that in order to understand this, I need to know 8 concepts that you haven't explained yet. Explain the 8 concepts first.
Whereas I'm sure when 10th edition drops, Simon and I'll pick up the book and go, we know what we're looking at.
Yeah.
And I think you would now as well. But back then you certainly didn't. You were very frustrated because it's like, it didn't feel particularly intuitive to pick up and play. Yeah,
the current, and it has been leaked and it's out and about now, but the current 10th ed rule book, like the core rules that they're giving away for free, that's exactly how it's laid out. I think it's really, like, as a designer, researcher myself, I've looked at it from a user experience point of view and I'm like, oh yeah, this makes sense, because they will introduce a rule and then they'll have a little call out of the rule right there.
Nice.
Unlike the other ones, which were psychic does mortal wounds. What's a mortal wound? Don't know. Where's that found? 5 pages further in.
Yeah, no, exactly. And they explain it when they first introduced the concept of mortal wound. It's explained on the sidebar on there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I would encourage you to have a look. And Sonia, it's just behind you there.
What can I say there? Just leave me alone with my painting.
Yeah, I would encourage you to have a look just from that point of view, not from you learning what the rules are, but just having a look to say, can you read through this thing and does it make sense? Because
make more sense.
Maybe that's a kudos that you can give to GW. It's like, you know what? I've always been critical of your rulebook, and 9th ed, while it's been the most balanced of, like, I've played since 2nd ed, but every edition I've played, it's the most balanced and the most competitive. Let's put it that way.
I agree. It's gotten better every time.
However, its current, in essence, rules, but it is the barrier to entry for, like, right now. So my kids, I've played a bunch of games with my kids before. but I've always had to kind of dumb it down. I haven't given them the rule book. I've just told them kind of the general things, and I've written on a little piece of paper. It's like, this Harlequin, I just gave him a random amount of attacks, and it's like, hit on 3, wound on 4. That's it. That's all you need to know. 3, 4, 3, 4. And so they're just like rolling dice and all that. And we've got some friends who want to learn how to play, and they were talking to me about it. And it's like, well, you come to the right person. However, I would rate a couple of months, because right now, getting to 40k as a new person from a competitive mindset, it's like, no. Unless you want to trawl through 3 sets, like just one army will have at least 2 books minimum, but probably like 3 or 4, and not including Forge World. And if you include Forge World, good luck as well. And then years upon years of different FAQs, and just wait.
Just hold. It's nearly here. I can smell it. It's so close.
That's it.
But yeah, that was kind of Emma forcing the issue, and then when she's sort of gone, well, these are all these little things that we could improve on, and
Michael's not really a planner or an organizer.
I am. I do it in my head, though, and you don't like that.
I don't, because you know where I can't see? In your head.
Yeah.
So
You can if you have a big enough hammer.
This is true. Good thinking. So I kind of went from having nothing to do with it to then being really full on involved with planning the events and Linebreaker, so at Warhammer Camp, and then writing for the blog and co-hosting the podcast, and then obviously we started running. Then we started running an event called Southern Hemisphere Open. Was that 2017?
Yeah, 17.
So we had David Annandale came over for it. We had 17 different game systems and 20 different events. We had painting workshops, painting competitions.
That was the same year for ATC. It was held there.
Well, 2018.
That was 2018.
That was the second year.
Yeah, that was the second year. So and then the third year was probably our biggest year, and then COVID hit. So but that then became, I was working full time, and then that was a full time job as well, trying to organise that event. So I didn't do any of the let's support my husband's hobby by being involved in it. I just went from not involved to...
I suppose you did a little bit. I still remember going to a tournament in 2003.
Oh, yeah.
No, 2004, where you were sat up until all hours of the morning blacking in the tracks on a Land Raider.
Yeah, I mean, I did, and because I wasn't allowed to help him paint, because I'm not trusted to paint, Sonia, which is fair enough, but I'm certainly not trusted to glue anything. Because anytime
she's not allowed super glue.
I can't even open super glue without gluing my fingers together or to my face.
She stuck her fingers to her head once.
More than once, sadly. So I'm definitely not trusted to... I'm not trusted to glue anything like that, and I'm allowed plastic glue.
Plastic glue, yeah, because you can't stick yourself to it.
Look, anyone touching super glue will do that. Like Sonia was saying, well, we were waiting. Like we were waiting for you to join, and I was picking off super glue from my finger, and Sonia was saying, "I can hear that."
Emma does it.
Feel better. Thanks for that.
But Emma can get herself stuck to things, but the model that she's building will fall apart.
No, and then the super glue gets in the pants and open the holes. It's like, it's going everywhere. The super glue.
Yeah, like in those early days, sort of in the early 2000s.
Yeah, and the first event that you ran with...
In 05, with Outpost.
Yeah, so, I was there, and pre...
That was manual scoring.
Yeah, that was manual scoring. So pre-Best Coast pairings, and then we went to Down Under pairings, now we're back to Best Coast pairings. But pre those, it was all manual scoring. So I was there doing the manual scoring.
All the data entry, yeah.
And, having to check my data and all of that kind of stuff. And and that was all the way back to 2005 for that first event. You ran it, but I was there kind of doing the support role stuff.
And how did you juggle that? Like, did you just have relatives or like your parents or whatever looking after the kids, or like?
Well, in those early days,
2005, we didn't have children. That was. It must have been.
It was
just before Danica.
Yeah, I think you were pregnant.
Yeah. So that was before children, but then in the early days of OBSEC, then yes, my mum would have the kids, and then my dad's always run our kitchen and our bar for us. So he would be at the events, and I would be there in, you know, any kind of manner that would be there. But yeah, this is very much a family event. So my parents are always there to help with the kids, and now the kids are bigger, my mum comes along and helps in the kitchen and the bar and that kind of stuff as well. You can't do it without extra people.
I think
except that obviously I had the kids to enable you to be able to go to events, or
yeah.
you know, he left me pregnant.
Yeah, she's still not happy about this.
With our third child, left me pregnant while he went off to go play in Nerd Olympics.
So that was the year that the first team went to ETC in 2012. And the start of that year was Diffie came to Perth in February to play one of the bigger 40k events at the time, which was our Per 60/30 Skulls. And I won the event, he came second. And after that event in February, he said to me, "Hey man, do you want to fly to Poland and play on Team Australia?" And I went, "I would love to, but there is no way I'm getting that over the line." And we were already talking about doing a big trip that year. And I thought, if I can time this right, I can fly to Poland, do that event, and then just meet them in the UK and continue that trip. And at the time, we only had 2 kids.
We were also supposed to be going to America, and so he's suggesting that I should do a 20-something hour flight with 2 children by myself.
Well, you had your parents as well. But they're going, okay, maybe I can get this over the line. And I don't know how she agreed, but she agreed. And
I didn't agree.
I certainly might have said yes before you agreed.
Yeah, I definitely didn't agree.
That's entirely possible. And then sort of I'd paid for the flight.
Let's remember that you hadn't paid for this flight, and let's remember that this is going public. So perhaps some of this story is not appropriate to share. So do you mind if I just edit the story? So anyway, then our 6-week trip to America ended up not being able to be 6 weeks. And so we had to do a shorter trip to America. And then he sulked and said, "I really need to go to Poland. And there's some other stuff in there, but that's what we're going to share publicly." And because he sulked so loudly, he got to go to Poland.
So we flew back the day Emma was 6 months pregnant.
We flew back from
America.
Yeah.
She wasn't allowed to fly after that. And even then, the insurance to get her home from America. And the only reason she was over 6 months was the time difference. It was stupid. Anyway, we got back. Now, one of the Brisbane locals, Brett Warhurst, who's an ex-Perth boy. He'd just moved to Brisbane. And he ended up on the team with me because we had a dropout. And Diffie called me and said, "Hey, do you know anyone?" And I called Brett and went, "Do you want to come to Poland?" He went, "I've just moved to Queensland. I don't think that's going to happen." 3 minutes later, he called me back on, "I'm in. We're going to Poland." So he flew into Perth like 2 days after we got back from America. And then we got on a plane and flew to Poland. And left Emma home with...
Abandoned me.
6 months pregnant with 2 kids under 6. And then did the tournament and then flew home again. So,
and then went, however many years later, he went to LVO and abandoned me again. This time left me alone with 3 children, as our eldest was starting high school and our youngest was starting kindy. And he left me with all of those tears all by myself while he was off playing toy soldiers on the other side of the world.
But LVO?
Yes, I know, it was LVO.
So there have been a couple of times when the timings for these events haven't been perfect. But, that sort of support's been welcome. Yeah. I'm trying to convince them to let me do it again. I'd love to do that.
I know my first trip to EDC at the time, that was 2016. Our youngest, I think, was only 1 year old. Yeah. He was 1 year old.
1.5.
Oh, 1.5.
Oh, I suffer with 4 under 4.
That's right.
Okay.
And whenever I go to Europe, so I've now been 3 times for the ETC, WCC, it's minimum a month that I'm going to be there. So the first time I went to, I did Athens. Athens was the first one. And then went, because my dad and my cousin went to Serbia, and then we did the trip throughout Europe with them. And Yeah, my wife looked after the 4 kids.
And I was a happy camper at the end. Oh God.
The second trip, that was much more enjoyable because Sonia actually came. So that was 2016. She was the
I
manager.
remember the streams that she was doing while you were playing. Though.
Yeah.
But
that's
even that we have to
Was that
in
when you had
case
the trolley?
we did the passport for all 4 kids. We have
Yeah.
to do the passport just in case.
Just in case. But yes, that was the trolley. And
That was the
The
trolley.
trolley,
I remember that
yeah.
on video. They got a shopping trolley and rigged the camera to it.
That's
Nice.
right.
It was very
had,
sensible.
we had it was a homeless
The
trolley
whole-
type
the
thing.
whole trolley.
We put the Australian flag on it, and that's became like the snack table, so to speak. Like
Yeah.
that
Everyone
remember-
dropped their
I
bags in
remember the
there.
photos and everything of it. It was great.
Yeah. And yeah, Sonia and I went. So we did
enjoyed
ETC, and then we did a trip around Europe, and the kids were with grandparents and cousins and things like that for the month.
Been at home for a month.
That's right. And then the most recent one,
You went.
same thing. I was gone 3.5 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
See,
that was
all
more,
those-
more livable because they're older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
All of the
then-
trips I've done have been whirlwind ones. Like LVO, I flew in on the Thursday, and then straight after the tournament, like the day after the tournament, was back on a plane to come home. And ETC was the same. I got in on the Thursday morning, tournament Friday, Saturday, Sunday, on a plane Monday afternoon.
Yeah, no.
That was hard.
If I'm going to spend that much effort to get to that place, I'm going
I'd
to
have used up all my leave in goodwill. That was that was never going to be.
LVO was 2020.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we just planned it to gap year.
That's right. So,
So
that was
before
that year I was
before
in
the kids
Colombia.
started high school as well.
Yeah.
That was the plan before because in primary it's a little bit more delay, but I think that it doesn't matter. You can waste time.
That's right. So we adjusted our schedule so I could do LVO before we went to Colombia, and that was January 2020. Did LVO.
We were running away from COVID.
Yeah, running away from COVID while it was starting to spread across America, and then got to Colombia. Oh, and that was a fun year. Anyway, all right. Just I'll say in the interest of time, but we'll go through some more of the little questions I've got. I know we talked a little about some of what we thought the benefits were. Because it sounds like we're all on the same page. It's almost like us just talking, to the converted, so to speak. I keep coming back to acolytes and cults and all that type of stuff. But 40K is not a cult.
If you grow too many limbs, you're out.
That's right. But a general question is should you get your partner involved or more involved? I've already said my own piece, but what do you guys think of that question?
I don't know. I think that is it going to bring joy to have your partner involved? But also, I think one of the reasons that Mike didn't necessarily want me involved is because it was his space. So we've been together for 24 years, and I shouldn't admit this out loud, but I actually can't imagine him not being part of my life. Like, he's actually, I think if he wasn't part of my life, it would be like losing an arm or a leg. We've been together more than my entire adult life. And so we're both individuals. We're both very independent, but at the same time, completely dependent on one another. Because 24 years, it's a long, long time to be together. But is it important to maintain some of your own interests that is outside of that partnership, and being able to have spaces where you can find friendships or have connections that don't involve your partner? I think that's probably why he was trying to keep, apart from the fact that I completely thrashed him in the first half of that game and he didn't want that to happen ever again. That's probably why he didn't necessarily want me as part of that. Do you think that would be accurate?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's something that I wouldn't have been able to articulate at age 20, but I do think that there's that natural thing of having your own space and your own thing that is for you that you don't necessarily want or need to share, but it's something that you that's sort of needed, that fulfills a gap in terms of your stress or your outlet or your creativity or whatever it happens to be.
Helps you make you who you are. So.
Yeah, but I think I've still got that in the hobby these days, even with you and Lachlan being as involved as you are these days, because I can sit here, swear and curse at these stupid outriders.
But what I wonder, what I was going to add to it, is I think that since I have become more involved in it, I now have a much greater understanding of what it is, and I think I resent it a lot less.
That is true.
I think and look, it's changed a lot. So I don't know how you. Well, actually, Simon, you get Sonia to paint for you, so it's probably not an issue for you. But particularly in the earlier days, if Mike had a tournament coming up, he's a procrastinator and always has been. So great intentions of he's going to take this new army, and he will buy that new army. He probably had already got the new army, and it was still sat wrapped in plastic. And then in the week before the event, he had to build it and get the whole thing painted. So I wouldn't see him, and the kids wouldn't see him for at least that entire week. And I would really resent that because I'm working, I'm looking after the kids, and am I going to see you? And I think he doesn't necessarily do that as much, although he's still massively a procrastinator.
Hey, look, I'm building this army for 10th edition. I've got 2 models to go of these stupid bikes.
Yeah, you'll get them started and then you'll leave it and procrastinate till the night before an event. But I think because I understand it more now, it doesn't bother me in the way that it used to. Or I'll be saying, when's that event coming up? Don't leave it till the last minute, because I understand more.
I have gotten better at it. Like the World Leaders I did for that tournament was like, okay, cool. I did paint a lot in those 2 weeks, but it was much more spread out. It was only a couple of hours a night, not, hey, I got home from work, bye, and sit for 9 hours until 2 a.m.
3 o'clock in the morning,
and then get 6 hours sleep and go back again.
And then be cranky because he's not sleeping because he's painting the models and he's kind of no good to anybody.
Yeah, that kind of lack of, the reduction of resentment, then, do you think that's strengthened your relationship? Like you taking part in...
With the
with scalpel.
Or any other instrument that might be on the desk at a time. But yeah, definitely. I think resentment's never healthy. So reducing resentment, however that might look, I think that's always got to be positive, right? So I think if there's a way that you don't necessarily need to be inviting your partner to come and play at events with you.
You don't need to induct them into the cult.
That's it. But if there are so many different elements to this as a hobby, that if you can share the books or, the love of the law or, the painting or the sculpting or the playing, whether that's at an event or you happen to want to play on a Friday night with your partner or doubles with a friend and their partner type of thing, I think that's just kind of what relationships are about, isn't it? Like sharing common interests.
So for partners that might not be interested or even actively dislike 40K, they're like my dad, so to speak. What do you like? Is there anything that you can suggest or say to them?
I'm probably pretty big on communication. So I think if partners are actively hating on this as a hobby, I'd want to be asking why. So, and I've never met your dad, Simon, but I'm going to use him as an example. I think sometimes we get an idea around what a hobby or what this might be. And, if you've grown up with nerds and geeks being an insult, whereas we use in our house, nerd, geek and weird are terms of endearment. Like, we really love the fact that our whole house is full of weirdlings. If you've grown up with that being an insult and you see this as a nerd hobby or a geek hobby, then what's behind that? Because I think if you haven't experienced it, then you can't hate it. But we're still seeing that hatred there. So I'd just be encouraging people to be open to actually finding out what the hobby's about, or, sharing with your partner. So if I was Mike and he was me and he hated 40K, I'd be wanting to share what brings joy about this, and what, why is it that I'm choosing to spend 9 hours after work for a week getting an army ready? Why is it that I'm choosing to do that rather than choosing to spend time with you or choosing to go out? Why is it that I'm choosing to spend an entire Sunday from 7 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night? Why am I choosing to spend my free time doing that? What does that bring for me? And sharing that, because I think the more we can share about what those experiences have to offer, then the more we get to learn about each other. The difficulty is, as Mike just said, he's not sure he could have articulated some of this stuff when he was 20. And I think probably, some of the stuff that I talked about with, the people who struggle socially, or the mental health elements of events, I think if I hadn't pointed them out, he probably wouldn't have been able to identify them either. So sometimes it can be difficult to articulate what it is about our hobby that brings us joy. But I think the more that we can share, and the more we can communicate, and the more that we can bring people into that, joy is infectious. So the more we can share that joy, whether that's to talk about it or to show something and to invite people to celebrate us, then the more that helps strengthen a relationship. But also, if you're sharing something that brings you joy and the person who you love isn't celebrating that, what's that saying about your relationship? So you've got 4 kids. I don't know if you've ever done the circle of security stuff, but I apply that to all of my relationships, including my husband and my animals, and my children. But it's about being the secure base for somebody. So if Mike is, struggling with events, I want to be there to catch him. But if he is winning an event, or if he has had an amazing sculpt on something that actually it's of no interest to me, I'm not excited by a really cool sculpt, but I love the fact that he's over the moon about it. I love the fact that he's excited, and that brings me joy, and I want to celebrate his joy. So it's not something that I would go out and look for a particularly awesome sculpt on something or a particularly amazing conversion, but I can see the joy that he's got, and I want to be there to fan the flames of his fire, because that's what being in a relationship means to me. It's about being there to support people when they need it, and being their biggest champion and cheer squad when they're doing well as well.
Well put. Anything to add, Mike?
No, what she said.
Excellent. All right. Well,
no, that's the reality. Emma's. We've been together a very, very long time.
Try not to sound quite so. Really, really, really long time.
Like 22 years or 26 years.
24,
going on to 40.
Like counting, yeah.
No. It feels like 40 though.
My relationship with 40K is ironically longer. But I don't know I'd still be doing the hobby without her. Because there's plenty of moments, particularly when you start running events and stuff, where you go, I've had enough of this. You lot giving me the shits. You're asking dumb questions. I've had enough. And you have those low moments.
But you know what? We get to share that.
We do.
And, we're in some
both
of the
get to be
same
low and feeling like shit.
We get to go, oh my God, have you seen the utter garbage that is coming out of this person's mouth? And sometimes those are our bonding
sometimes
moments.
They can be. But you're right in that we see it a lot with partners who come into the event at the end of the day, and they just kind of hide in the corner, or they don't.
Or they get really stroppy because why aren't you ready to leave yet?
Yeah.
And you go, yeah.
And I'd love it if those people would come in and have a wander around and be more part of the community, even if they're not interested in the game. If they just came in and were more comfortable in the room, their partners would ultimately be more comfortable in the room, not looking at the clock going, why haven't we done the awards? The awards happened 2 minutes ago. We're about to start. Just calm down.
Yeah.
I have to go. She's been waiting 5 minutes. I think it'd markedly help those people just to be a little bit more accepting. They don't have to like it, but if they could just see it for what it is, as a way of someone, like you said, finding joy and supporting them in grabbing those 5 extra minutes to be there for the awards and you know, they're there with their mates and they've had a good day, and being able to kind of wrap it up nicely is important. And we see a lot of partners who don't necessarily want that to happen. And the fact that if I'm running late, and there's been plenty of events that have run overtime that I've been playing, then I've called Emma and gone, hey, I'm just letting you know it's going to be 2 more hours. And she's had to look after kids and all the rest of it. It's never been, you have to come home now. Like you said, you were going to be home by 6. Why aren't you home now? And I've got friends who've had to deal with that.
It might be you're going to need to get takeout on.
Yeah, you're going to be feeding at least yourself, but likely all of us.
We're not the ones that finish at 10 o'clock, but
No.
you will need to pick
But
up your own
at
takeout.
least
I'm
Mike
not
have the
feeding you,
decency
look
to
after
call.
yourself.
So what was that, Sonia?
That at least Mike have the decency to call Simon.
Yeah.
Hey, whoa! There's just no way that he will call me or he will say something or.
Yeah, so but this is like my my trips to Europe where I don't go in just rushing things. Sonia has learnt that if I'm out for that day, for an event, that's it.
You're out for that
do
day.
not expect me any particular time. It's like I am not here this 24-hour period. I don't do like
Yeah,
I'm
but
only
the
doing
thing is-
this event for here and here. It's like nah, stuff that. I'm gone for a month.
No, but still, he still have to call because there is 4 kids here. They're claiming we want to talk to daddy. We want to talk to daddy. Call him. Just here
Yeah.
in my mobile. Call him. You can
Yeah.
call dad.
See, these days, the last few events I've been to, it's actually been with my son, and Emma doesn't give a flying hoot about me. It's, is he safe? Has he had lunch? How did he do? Did he win his game? Is he going to beat you? Like, all
Oh,
of those
yeah.
questions.
I really
She
want
doesn't
him to
give
beat you.
hoots about me. So,
No, I mean, I do put public posts up that say, if you don't win, don't bother coming home.
yeah, there has been. That's happened on more than one occasion.
I like
So-
it. Positive
Luckily,
reinforcement.
he was allowed back in the house.
Yeah, it's the Ricky Bobby style of parenting. It's like if you're not first, you're last.
But you know what? Like that sort of sense of humor, we've had it over the years where people have gone, "Oh my god, like you can't say that," and it's like, no, that's our relationship. That's how we show affection, and there's people who come to our events, and we say to them, "You will get used to us." When we start insulting, like we're introducing ourselves to a new person who's come to the tournament, and then a regular will come up, "What the hell are you? Like you're late. What the fuck? Like we'll give them a little bit of lip, and the person will look horrified. And no, it's fine.
We don't insult you till at least your second event.
And if we're insulting you, it generally means we like you.
Yeah.
So
It's when I'm
Well,
like,
this is what I was thinking when you were saying before. The good thing about having a second person there is, like it's something like those black and white movies. Someone says something stupid and say, "Hey Earl, did you see what this idiot said?" Like you could say that. It's like, Emma, you're talking to someone, they ask you a stupid question, say, "Mike, this fucking idiot just asked me this." And it's like, "You're an idiot." Yeah, that's what I just said.
I do want to get myself a T-shirt made that I can just, like how you see them where they've got the shirt on and then underneath the T-shirt. I want to get that so the T-shirt underneath that I can open up to says, "Have you read the players pack?" So as yet I haven't managed to get that T-shirt made.
oh look,
Because they'll wear a T-shirt saying, "No."
FAQ T-shirt. Have you read the players pack? Did you check the rule book? Have you downloaded the latest FAQ? Like 10 questions down the back of the shirt.
That's exactly right.
Now I like
I'll put my hat
Maybe-
on and saying, "No, I have not."
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking you.
Maybe I'll organise that for a tournament. I reckon we can make something of that.
Excellent. All right. Well, look. What's happening for the future? You can do some plugs and talk about what's happening in the future in your world.
Well, with 10th edition on the imminent horizon now, we're going to be on the 24th. I haven't told Emma this, but I'm going to tell her now because.
I love finding out stuff
Yep.
that we're doing.
So on the Saturday the 24th, which is the rumoured release date, we don't know any more than anyone else. Assuming that is the date, I'm going to have a couple of people around. We're going to be streaming a bunch of games from the OBSEC dungeon.
Oh, that's fine. I thought you were going to say we were running an event.
No, that's the week after. I haven't told you that either.
That's right. You've heard it here
Actually-
first.
Yeah.
Same
Exactly.
exact second as Emma, who's actually running the thing.
Oh, you wait.
Pulling my calendar out going, have I got anything else on that?
No, it gets better because it's actually 8 events simultaneously. So
Beautiful.
my plan is to do 8 8-player events.
Okay.
And then the winner of each of those, a couple of weeks later, we're going to do a single 8-player event to get an actual winner from the event.
Okay.
So good luck with that. I'm just going to throw that at you now. I've been working through that process over the last week in my head.
And you know why I don't know about it? Because it's in your head and I can't see what's in your head.
Simon's just dropped this opportunity on me to give you this information. I was
Is
going to
that
wait until the
10
week.
edition or the 9th edition?
No, 10.
It's 10.
And
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
right. So it's going to be even more like, have you read the rule book? It's like, no, it came out yesterday.
I don't even know the rule book.
Have you read the players pack? No, because Mike didn't publish one because Mike doesn't know what he's writing. No, like we've still got, assuming that all goes ahead as planned, we do a couple of other events later in the year. The big ones for anyone listening on the East Coast are the Perth GT in December this year, and then prior to that in September we've got WATC, the West Australian Team Challenge. Teams of 6 is that event. It's been going now since 2016. So what's that make it? 8? This is year 8 now?
I don't know.
I think it's year 8 now. Last year was 120 players. The year before, I think, was 132. It's in that sort of 20 to 22 team range, depending on who can make the trip.
Yeah.
We had guys from Adelaide over last year. We had guys from... Oh, God, hang on.
Kuala
We actually had Liam over last year from Queensland as well on the winning team. So, yeah,
I gotta get my WA, sledging in. The only time that WA wins is when they import people from the East Coast, you see.
Well, to be fair, just about everybody in the room was West Australia.
Yeah.
So it has been won by a West Australian team every year so far up until last year.
I actually was
That
on the
could have been
winning...
because we hadn't had East Coast people there.
It's the only event of ours I've ever played in.
Yeah.
And I won it. I was on the winning team the first 3 years.
Yeah.
Nice.
And the event had grown so big by that stage. Emma was running that event solo.
Yeah,
And
I
I
was running that event solo with manual scoring for the first half.
Yeah.
Yes,
So that's
a lot.
That's I don't play that event anymore either.
Yeah.
So that's
Emma, what I suggest is something that, like, I think episode 1 of the Partners one was with Chelsea, and Chelsea's done some TOs when Matt's played, so that Matt Marasoli, and she doesn't know the rules or things. She just keeps things churning along, and she just tells people, "Don't ask me, work it out yourself." And it seems to work really, really well. And
with it to find out how that goes.
yeah, it kind of links to. I'm doing throwback now, but to that kind of intervention, and when you have unintended consequences. This is like part of my professional life. It's like whenever you come up with an intervention of a problem that you think is occurring, and you then have an unintended consequence, it's like a problem that's occurred because of that intervention. So the example that was with the table numbers, right?
Yeah.
So there's no table numbers, people won't know what they're doing, so that's a problem. You put an intervention in, you put table numbers in, the unintended consequences, people steal the table numbers, and now they're asking the same questions again. So where if you just went back to no table numbers, it's like, no problem. The table number 1's in the corner.
I'm liking this thought. This is great.
Exactly. And the same thing here. It's like, if you say, yeah, come and ask me any questions, now people will come and ask you questions. If you tell them, like Chelsea does, it's like, work it out yourself, stop asking me.
I don't know.
9 out of 10 questions we get are answered by simply reading what the rule actually says.
Yeah.
It's very rare I get one that I go, oh, now I need to go and look this up because this is a weird one. But no, look, going back to the original point.
9th and 10th of September.
9th and 10th of September, WATC. Tickets go on sale July 1st. It's actually already set up and ready to post on our website.
Yep, this will go out probably a week and a half from now.
Cool.
So they go live 1st of July.
Perfect.
The tickets go out for that because my accountant wants me to wait for the new financial year. So,
and the GT is.
I was going to say, is your accountant Emma?
No, I'm the one who does all the paperwork in the house.
Okay.
No, the 2nd and 3rd of December is the Perth GT, which is our end of season event, which is the event that kicked it all off. It's year 9 this year.
Very nice.
So the next year's one is going to be quite interesting because we'll be in the middle of 10th edition. It'll be right in sort of the...
Maybe we could retire.
do 10 years.
10 years and then close the doors. What do you reckon?
Well, we'd have to do WATC first.
That's true. Okay, we'll have to do 10 years of WATC, then we can consider retiring.
But if anyone wants to hit us up about any questions in regards to Perth events, you can find us on our Facebook page, which is Objective Secured, facebook.com/Objective Secured, or via the website, objectivesecured.com.au. We do have Twitter and Instagram and the other stuff, and I do get the odd messages there, but it's not as reliable for me to check.
And that's where all those blog posts you were talking about are?
Yeah,
They all publish to the Facebook page as well.
Podcast episodes, they're all on, just on the website. You can
It's about 120 something. I think it's 120 something episodes of podcast now.
Yeah,
Excellent.
So there's a podcast there, and then there's however many hundreds of blog posts as well. So,
Yep.
Although mine are not anywhere near as frequent as yours, but
Look, to be fair, of late, mine have slowed down waiting for 10th. Yeah. So I suspect, and I've got a couple of other authors writing stuff at the moment. So
it's because Mike's got the old man yells at clouds. You know, he needs to put it into a blog post.
Well, beats it being in his head, so you know.
That is true.
That would be funny
when they comment than when they don't. So.
Yeah, that would be really, really funny though if you found out some things that were in Mike's head through a blog post. It's like he's been thinking about something for 6 months. He posted a blog post, and that's how you actually find out.
Or I find out by doing a podcast, and I'm like, oh, we're running an event, are we? Oh, 8 events on one day. I'm like, yeah, no problem.
I've already got a plan for it. I've got other TOs lined up to help run them all. I'd say you just got to let me go through my process. It all works.
Excellent.
You don't need to know until you need to know, and right now you can
now I need to know.
You need to start thinking about it. Yeah. So.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Being on. Anything you want to say, Sonia?
No, I'm fine. I enjoy very much this podcast.
Excellent. All right. We'll catch you later, guys.
Thanks so much.